Welcome to the Gals Guide to the Galaxy podcast, where a group of gals gather for you one cool thing around our topic of the month. Is it ancient history? Is it breaking news? Is it safe for work? Well, that's up to each gal. All we know is that...
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Welcome back. I am Leah, and I am joined by Bonnie and Katie and Mary, and we are talking about our one cool author gal. So Bonnie already talked about Cokie Roberts, but before we dive back in, let's get to know something random about our gal pals. So I want to know, ladies, have you ever thought of writing a book, or have you ever written a book? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, I've been part of an anthology.
That counts.
And I got with my Sherlock Holmes groups, and I get the email one day and said, would you like to contribute? And the topic we want you to write on is how Sherlock Holmes is like Mr. Darcy.
Yes.
And I thought, that's awesome. And in a typical writer's, stance, I waited and thought about it and waited, and then I get a deadline and oh crap, now I have to write. Whoa. Yeah, just like any other author, and then you
right to the deadline.
And then you handwrite stuff out and type it up, and I had a great editor because he caught a rather obvious typo.
Did you know that secrets and secretes is only one letter different?
Irony and iconic.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, those are different words.
Yeah. We wanted to go with iconic. Luckily, he caught that.
He found the
and that's what I thought. I typed, but no. No, it was a lot of fun. It was exciting when you get a book and you're in. And it's like, hey, look, I'm in a book.
Oh, that's fantastic. What about you, ladies? Any secret books?
No, sir. Well, when I was little, I remember going into the office with my mom on like a Saturday, and I had my buddy, the next door neighbor kid, Lindsay, with me. Mm-hmm. I remember we played on the typewriters.
Oh, yes.
Typed up a story. Like, she wrote it and I illustrated it.
Very nice.
I found it like a year or two ago. Oh! And there's like a page that's upside down because we like stapled it together and stuff. Oh. I gotta figure out what I do with it and like mail it to her because it's hilarious.
Exactly. It's gonna be in the Bonnie Museum.
No, but no, I've never thought about like writing a book. I'm very fortunate. There's like, if there weren't so many like women's history books out there, I feel like I would definitely be writing one.
Yeah.
Something probably like the Rejected Princesses or something.
Oh, those are great books.
It's a blurb and an illustration kind of a thing.
Yes.
I've been toying with my 100 suffragists to do a like book because
yes,
originally I was supposed to have like a gallery show,
right?
And then 2020 happened, but a lot of these museums and stuff are pushing back their celebrations, so maybe stuff will happen. Maybe.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, the history is always going to be there. We're still going to want to know about our suffragettes. Yeah.
So that may be in the works. I haven't even started on what all I need to do for that.
Right. Just concentrate on the writing and I'll just cheerlead.
I mean, I gotta finish all the paintings too.
There's that. Yeah. One or the other. Or both in, due time and that sort of thing.
I have my calendars. I don't know if that counts. That's like Little Bird.
It is publication.
Kinda.
There you go.
It's printed.
It's printed. It's a printed thing. It's got words and pictures on it. It's got a cover and a back cover. Miss Katie, have you ever thought of writing a book? Because I would totally buy it.
Yeah. There's that time you tried to get me to write a cookbook.
Yes! Ooh. I still want you to write a cookbook. I still think you would have like the best cookbook ever because it would be stuff that people would actually want to eat.
Maybe. Not my son. Maybe the rest of you.
Exactly. Then write it for us, Katie.
Well, Bonnie made me think with what you were sharing about how when I was in elementary school, something I wrote won an award.
Oh, you're an award-winning writer.
Award-winning writer.
Yes.
I wrote about adopting a cat from a pet shop named Snowball.
Oh, is this based on a true story or is this a fiction story?
Was 100% something I willed into existence but did not. I wanted to exist, but was unable to will into existence.
You
but,
were
I
trying.
was trying.
It was blackmail, wasn't it?
But you still won an award.
Yeah.
You're like, this
Award-winning.
award-winning story, parents. Buy me the damn cat.
And then in high school, I did journalism, and my favorite was always writing opinion pieces
Ooh,
or reviews.
nice.
So I don't know if I'm like, I don't know.
There you go. Maybe
Maybe someday.
I like it.
Maybe it's inside here somewhere.
Yes. Oh, too fun. I do have a few books. I don't know. I always push it to the wayside. I have like 4 books out under Kate Chaplin, my old life stage name persona sort of thing. But I do want to write more books. I want to write more women's history books and get those out there and find new ways to make history really important and relevant. I'm working on a book that is life skills, how history can actually be a life skill. How it can be almost like a self-help tool and teach you how to, navigate your life and see hits and misses and stuff like that.
Well, it's amazing. I find it interesting just looking at like Facebook memories.
Yeah.
I have like 12 years on there, so I look at it each day and I realize 5 years ago I was at the dentist the same day I was at the dentist this year. And
Exactly.
There's history.
There's a
patterns,
repeating, yes.
And sometimes having that repetition, there's safety in it.
Yeah, and a soothingness too. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
this feels right for some reason. Oh yeah, because I always do this every year.
Right. Except for this year.
Right. Well, yes, this year.
This year we can't get. Well, at least the first 2 months we were good, and then things kind of.
And then it all went interesting, tipsy-turvy, sideways. Well, my one cool thing, I'm actually, the gal that I'm going to talk about, her second book, I'm actually in the dedication.
I've had a book I've been in dedication.
You've been in a dedication?
Yes, it's so much fun when you
It
open the book. It's like, oh.
So every now and again, I have to kind of like remind myself of kind of like the premise of the show, which is the bringing like one cool thing to the table. Because a lot of times like, oh, this is somebody I could talk about, or this is somebody I want to research, or you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, ooh, this seems interesting. I always tell guests when they come on, like, how do you pick? Like, think about if you were going to tell your best friend one cool thing about one cool pirate gal or one cool African gal or one cool author, who would you tell, your best friend about? How would you pick that way? So in my case, I chose my previous best friend to then tell my best friends. So I'm going to talk about my cool author gal, which is Debra Kemp. So, glorious Debra Kemp. Katie, you remember Debs.
I remember Debs, yeah.
Bonnie, did you ever meet Debs?
I met Debs, but I still haven't met Phoebe in person.
Well, there's that. She lives in Pennsylvania, so that could be why it's a little bit harder. I'm not even sure if you've met Debra Kemp. She came to Starbase every now and again,
Okay.
but she was more at In Conjunction than anything else.
And I love In Conjunction.
She was always in the Doctor Who room.
I spent a lot of time in the Doctor
You
Who
guys
room.
have probably
You know
been
why?
in the Doctor Who room together.
Free treats.
Yeah, exactly. That's where we would have lunch. We'd
Yeah.
have lunch in the Doctor Who room.
Yeah, you watch some Doctor Who. It's about the only time I would watch Doctor Who is when I go in there,
Mhm.
have a nosh.
Yeah.
If there's a couple episodes that you come out and you got your mascara running
Right,
down your
of
face.
course. Yes.
Damn it! I hate it when Doctor Who makes me cry.
Always.
And I'm like, I'm going to the next panel. You okay, Greg? Yeah, I'm fine.
Exactly.
Doctor Who.
It was just Doctor Who, guys.
Doctor Who.
So I will tell you about my glorious friend. She was born in Duh Region. That's what she always called it, by the way.
Duh Region.
Duh
yeah.
Region is
Duh Region.
Highland, Indiana. It's up near Gary and Chicago, and it's kind of the armpit of the Midwest there, right there.
Just don't say that to people from Duh Region.
Duh Region, right, exactly. It's only people who've escaped from Duh Region tend to call it that. As a kid growing up, she was drawn to history and to writing. Those were her 2 favorite things. What people now call fan fiction is what she was doing in the 60s. She would start to add her own characters and situations to existing things that she saw either in books or in movies. She wouldn't necessarily write herself into them, but she would just write a new character that was kind of like, I think this story needs this character in it. But one day she saw the movie Camelot, and in it, author There we go. I always say author and art. Anyway, I'm going to mess it up. But he tells one of the younger characters, carry on the tale of Camelot and never have it be forgot. So Debs always says, I was young, I was impressionable, and I took that to heart. So she became like obsessed with King Arthur. So she went to this place called a library and she learned everything that she could on King Arthur. And there's a lot. I mean, they've been writing King Arthur stuff since like the 11th century. And they write it and they rewrite it and they do like archetypes on it and stuff like that. So there's fiction, there's nonfiction, there's reimagining, there's continuing, there's, you know, what if scenarios. There's just tons and tons of King Arthur stuff. So she was 13 years old when she actually asked herself one very simple question, and it ended up putting her on a lifelong quest. And her one question was, what if King Arthur had a daughter? That's what she wanted to know. She's like, how would that look with the Knights of the Round Table and just filled with all these guys in this King Arthur? And then, of course, Guinevere. Right, exactly. It's like, what in the world would it look like? So she started writing a story when she was 13 of this glorious little story. And it had a really rocky start because she did the formulaic stuff. Like she had arranged marriages and having her do all the girly stuff with like Guinevere and dresses. And she hated all of it. She's like, no, this is not what I wanted. She also like couldn't get the character's name right. She felt like that's not her name. No, that's not her name. She struggled with that a lot.
So Karen was out.
Right, Karen was totally out. She had it as Helen for a while. It was kind of like her name at first, and she's like, I don't know why it's not working. Eventually, the character that formed into her mind's eye would become Lynn. Helen became shorter to Lynn, and it's Lin. Yeah.
That's my middle name.
That's my middle name. Hey! Look at that. I feel like we just pulled a Batman. Martha, that's my mother's name. So meanwhile, while it was kind of like formulating in her head, she went to nursing school. She married a military guy and they went traveling around the world and everything. And she ended up in England. Oh, I mean, just
darn.
Heaven sent for her. She lived 20 miles away from Stonehenge. So for being a King Arthur obsessed fan and being in England, she would go on these walks and she would just kind of like let these characters kind of play out in her head and see what scenarios would be. And she was just trying to figure out what would the life of King Arthur's daughter actually like look like? What would it sound like? What would it be like? So one day she was taking a walk and she heard the character of Lynn talking to somebody else kind of in her, you know, mind's eye about how they were slaves and they were imprisoned away from Camelot. And that's kind of where the story actually took shape. She's like, that's it. I have to get it away from Camelot and show like the darker side of imprisonment and enslavement. So Queen Morgause and Mordred are like the half brothers and the evil, like trying to always get King Arthur. So they imprisoned her. Is how the story actually plays out. So her fight for freedom would actually be her first book called The Firebrand. So that's how the premise kind of came to be. Walking around Stonehenge. Not too shabby, eh? I want to walk around Stonehenge and get ideas. So she was published by Amber Quill Press in 2003. And she decided to like take hand copies of her book everywhere that she went. I remember she went on a trip to Alaska and she like loaded up her suitcase with probably more copies of her book than clothes. So she could go to the local bookstores
There you go.
and get copies of her book around the world. So it was amazing and she always loved local bookshops. So she was always dragging me to them. So I met her in 2006. She came to my really terrible writing group. My writing group. It was called the Indie Writers Group. I had bookmarks in various libraries all around, promoting to come to our book meetings. We had them at Borders bookstores. Turned out the reason why I'm always so like about the writing group, psychiatrists were telling mental patients to come and join a writing group and write out their problems and share them with others. And they came to my group.
Oh, no.
We had some very unstable people and wow. So it was great. So that's why I always talk with disdain over my writing group days. But once we found out that was happening, I'm like, can I have the name of your psychiatrist, please?
Yeah.
I would like to have a little email discussion with them about sending them
Stop sending your
to
patients
my
to me.
writers group. Right, exactly. Thank you.
Start your own group.
So when I met her, she was finishing up the second book, which is called The Recruit. And The Recruit is when her main character actually arrives in Camelot for the first time. So now it's kind of getting to, the brass and tacks of how in the world does she survive within this Camelot universe. She was in the writing group because she was really looking for help, because in this Camelot universe, there's a lot of characters. A lot of them sound the same, like they sound like they have the same name. And a lot of them in the canon have like the same description. Like it's really hard to separate some of these established characters. So it was, how do I make it true to the canon, but interesting to modern readers who don't necessarily subscribe to King Arthur stuff. So I was taken by her passion. I had no interest in King Arthur whatsoever. I've never seen the Camelot movie. I didn't care
But
about
you have
it.
seen Holy Grail.
I have seen Holy Grail.
Well,
Of
there
course,
you go.
once find that.
Then you've seen the Camelot.
Okay, then I've seen it. All right,
you're
then I'm
good.
set.
You're good.
Yeah, but I just loved her passion and her truth to her characters. I thought she was damn funny, and her process was hilarious. She always talked like she was a schizophrenic, even though she wasn't schizophrenic. She's like, Lynn's just not talking to me today. And it always, like, if nobody knew what she was talking about in Borders bookstore, it sounded like we were schizophrenic talking to each other is what we were doing. Well, maybe you just need to be nice to her. Maybe you just need to play her favorite music or something. Like,
Take her out to a nice dinner.
Right, exactly.
Tell her she looks pretty.
It was always the weirdest conversations to outside, but we knew what we were talking about, and we just became very fast friends with our weirdness. So I read her first book like really, really quickly so I could like catch up and kind of learn as best I could so I could help her with the second book. And I remember reading these like gut-wrenching emotional scenes of this girl caught in slavery and being abused by these noble lords. And I'm reading this while my daughter's in gymboree class. So my daughter's like having fun and playing, look at me, Mom. And I'm like, oh my God. I'll never forget it. It was just so jarring. But Debs and I were pretty much like inseparable. Like once we had met, if she had an appearance at a writer's conference, I'd go with her to basically be her cheerleader because she would get all nervous. Also, she liked to drive and I didn't. So that was always nice. When I started my filmmaking career, she came with me to film festivals again because she would drive. And she would clap very loudly at the end of my films, which was very nice. So that was lovely. So we gave each other props.
I
and
remember
we also,
when you used her house to film.
Oh, dear God. Never again. One time I got to use her house. Oh, she didn't know what she was totally getting into.
No, but she was so sweet about it.
She was very nice about it. Her husband came home and went, you idiots don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm out. And he went and slept on somebody's couch that night because he's like, I'm not dealing with these film people.
He and I have the same mindset.
Exactly. We bought him a nice jug of whiskey. He was fine. But we would also tell each other like the hard truth. Like if she didn't get something in one of my movies, she'd tell me. If I didn't get something in her writing, I'd tell her. And we could really be honest creatively with one another. She's also the one that introduced me to National Novel Writing Month. So she is the reason.
So she's an enabler.
She's an enabler just like me. Yes, exactly. She started in 2005. So she started really early on with NaNoWriMo's. She got me to join this craziness of writing 50,000 words in 1 month of November. And her and I, we would write in bookstore cafes. She would always have headphones on. She would have Rush, like, blaring, barely above the cappuccino machine. Like, I would hear the cappuccino machine and I'd hear Rush. It's pretty much, like, the two things that I would always be hearing. But she'd be jamming away, listening to music, her fingers like ablaze, or handwriting. Sometimes it was handwriting when she was really, really mad at a character. When the words like flowed, she was like joyous and like in heaven. She's like, today's a good day. I actually have words. But even if she didn't have words that she liked, she's like, it's okay. It's more words than I had yesterday. So like she really cared about the word count, not about the word quality, because she was probably going to change them anyway. She changed them quite a bit. She was always excited in Nano because she had this tradition, and I know it's in the forums, but when you get stuck, there's a tradition of killing somebody with a shovel. And the idea is somebody who has pissed you off in that year, you start to write a character that describes that person you don't like in your real life, and then you kill them with a shovel in a very cathartic like way. So she would always have that.
Are you sure this isn't something that the psychologist told them to do?
This is quite possible. Yes, exactly.
It's an offshoot of your writing group again?
I think so. I think this is why we understood. But yeah, she would get very excited of who was going to get the shovel of death that particular year.
Wait a minute. That's also a scene from Monty Python.
Yeah, that is probably where it came from.
Bring out your dead.
Yes, there you go. Okay, the shovel of death. Yes.
There you go.
She was too excited about it. If somebody was really pissing her off in the writing group, generally, it's like, that person's going in my Nano. Like, that was our code of that person's going to die this year. That's going to be fun. But her absolute favorite saying in the world was, well-behaved women seldom make history. She had it on her bumper sticker. She had it on a t-shirt. This was like her favorite saying and motto, and she just lived her life to it. It was the inspiration that like she gave me as a friend too. It's like, don't be well-behaved, like totally screw around. So she would have loved this library. She probably would have been like the first volunteer in here. But sadly, Debs passed away in 2015. It was a total shock to all of us. It was absolutely sudden. Last I heard, it was an infection that just went to all of her major organs, and she shut down. It was very, very sudden. Like, I'm like, I'll see you next weekend. And it's like, yeah, so it was absolutely very, very weird that she passed away so suddenly. So I don't want to leave on the, she passed away sort of, downer. So I wanted to share this. So Debs really loved writing, and our friend Sarah really liked trips. And so Sarah and Debs would always get together with this idea of the three of us should go on a writing trip. We always talked about it. We seldomly ever went. But one year we actually went. We went to Chicago. It was for an extended weekend. And we went to the Right Inn because we were going to go for a writing weekend. And it was the Right Inn. And we Googled real hard.
To find that, yeah.
So it was in Oak Park, and we drank a lot. And we wrote a little bit. But we drank a lot.
Was this like Frank Lloyd Wright?
Yes, because it was right across the street from the Union Chapel that Frank Lloyd Wright made. So we actually went in there as one of our, just kind of like escaping tours, and we were looking at the architecture, and they had this huge organ piano that was in there. And it was a self-guided tour because really it was close to the winter and nobody was there. And so we were just kind of sitting in the pews and taking in the scenes. And somebody came to the piano and they started playing With a Little Help from My Friends. And they were playing the Joe Cocker version. And we all just kind of started laughing and looking at each other. Because anytime we were with Debs, like weird magical stuff like that would happen. Like who just comes and randomly starts playing an organ and starts playing some Joe Cocker organ. You know what I mean? Like that was pretty good. Because it was very much like, wait a minute, are we now in the Wonder Years? Like, because it's the theme song to the beginning of the Wonder Years.
Okay, now that you say that, when I walked into my office today, my work husband on his Bose had Joe Cocker, and I went,
it was, I'm telling you, magical shit. Like that was Debs. There you go.
She knew I was coming tonight.
She knew, yes, exactly. And she knew I was going to be talking about him.
Yeah. Like, wait a minute, that's what I walked into my office today hearing.
Exactly. So it's just weird, magical stuff like that. She was a very fierce feminist, even though she would never say that to your face, but she was a very fierce feminist. But she would always say she was the keeper of the Camelot tale sort of thing. And she was very much trying to like have that story be remembered. But I thought, you know what? With the Don't Let It Be Forgot, I thought I should share that Debs was my one cool thing. So that she shouldn't be forgotten. instead. Well, Katie, you knew Deb's. Do you have a favorite Deb's story?
Oh gosh.
I mean, not to put you on the
No.
spot or anything. Filming in her house was, I'm sure, fantastic.
I just love observing you guys' friendship. You were both so
We
comfortable.
were weird. Yeah.
Like whether she was at your house or you were at hers, and
Mhm.
like just the love she had for your girls
Oh, yeah.
too, and them
Mhm.
together. I really can't think of specific moments or things that happened because my memory is absolute crap. But just the sense of love and comfort. So it
Yeah.
was definitely devastating when she passed.
But yeah, she was also, I guess I should say, a major Doctor Who fan. So there you go. So if that gives her any kind of credibility ever. And she loved Doctor Who.
Well, who doesn't love Doctor?
I know,
Who doesn't
right?
love the Doctor?
Exactly. She's the one that actually got me to really like, Eccleston.
Yes.
Because people gave Eccleston a lot of crap, and she introduced,
No,
she's like, no, you got to start with Eccleston. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, why? She's like, because he's fun.
he is. He was.
And it was all about
fun.
just fun. And
Yeah.
she's like, Doctor Who needs to be about fun to get you started. And then you'll get addicted to it. And then you'll watch the rest of it and you'll get into Tenet and all that stuff. But she's like, no, you have to start with Eccleston. So she got me a really good episode. Made me sit there in the in-con room to watch it.
Did it make you cry?
Always. I mean, that guy's fun, but it cries.
I hate it when Doctor Who makes me cry.
Or makes me think.
I hate it, and I hate it when Star Trek makes me cry.
I know, right?
Because I mean,
Stinks
there's
out of nowhere.
well, sometimes I hate Voyager, but the one episode when Tupac takes the episode where the characters get younger as they age,
right.
and he walks them back into the cave.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there were like crocodile. I was messed up. I mean, I just had to turn off the TV and just sit there for like an hour and bawl. I mean, like hormonal.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Rocking back and forth.
Oh.
What is even happening?
This is not fun. This is supposed to be fun. This is Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, the Star Trek one that always gets me is the Deep Space Nine. There's something going on with the Ferengis where they end up, they're like, there's something wrong with one of them and they're like stabbing people, and I'm like, oh my god, because I'm so like Star Trek is so, it's like phasers and stuff, like you don't even think about like violence really.
Very true.
With it, everything's very like a distance with phasers and ships crashing and whatever.
Right.
But then it's like someone was like stabbing people, and I was like, oh my god, like this is
Oh,
like
the
a horror movie.
Humanity. Exactly.
Can you call them Ferengi humans?
Sure.
Like
Some
all
beings.
the
Humanoidish.
yeah,
That one thing from that one thing.
the thing.
The thing. Exactly.
But
All right.
didn't we get like one of Deb's books?
Oh, yes.
Or something for the library?
We do. We have both of her books in the library. Let's see if my... Hey, look at that. Ha, 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 ha. So we do have book 1 and 2. And believe it or not, actually, that is a fun story. So I lost my copies because I lended them to a friend who then decided to never talk to me again. But she has Deb's books. So I ordered some new ones for myself. And then when we were ordering for the library, I'm like, oh my gosh, there has to be Deb's. Her books have to be in here. And the first one that I ordered was off of Amazon Marketplace. So it was a used copy of it. I wanted to get one, from out in the world and, bring it back in. And it was an autographed copy from Highland, Indiana library system. She had donated many copies to the Highland Library, and we got one. And I called her son and I said, I have a copy of your mom's book that's autographed from Highland, Indiana. I feel weird having it in the library because I would never want anybody to check it out. So it's back in the family. So he gave me this copy of his collection that's not autographed. And then I gave him that one.
Okay,
so it stays in the family.
No, I'm not the only one, because as the regional coordinator for Jane Austen, I've had many members who have either passed or retired.
Yeah.
And then I'm the recipient of all their Janeite paraphernalia.
Right, exactly.
Well, I have one of my gals who's older. She has not passed, but she gave me everything.
Oh, gotcha.
And it's like all the signed copies
Oh,
of
yeah.
various Jane scholarship and pastiche and stuff by the authors, and some of them are to her name.
Wow.
To her personally.
Right.
And as I was kind of distributing the basic stuff, I kept out all the stuff that was signed to to her. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think, when she dies, her granddaughter
They might
like
want it.
that.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I have a good stack of authors who've signed books to me, and
Right.
and they're like, well, do you want me to just sign my name? I'm like, no, it's to me. This sucker ain't
this
being
is mine.
sold.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm not going to put this baby on eBay or anything like that.
Mhm.
No, this is. This is mine. So.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, so I have a stack of those, and I'm just kind of have a special place, and
Yes.
she doesn't know it. But when the time comes and everything, I'm gonna,
Mhm.
say, would you like these? Because these were signed to your grandma.
Right, exactly.
And I've kind of feel
More
like,
than likely they will want
yeah,
it.
it's
So,
kind of,
yeah.
again, going back into the family.
Yeah, I feel like they should be the main keepers of that sort of thing. And I said to them too, I'm like, if there comes a time where, you know what I mean, you're ready for it, you can bring it and I will preserve it at the library.
Right.
But until then, this is your family decision and, you can do what you need to do with it. So I thought it was too cute. And now I keep wanting to order more books just for the sake of what autographed ones will come back from where. Because she signed some funny ass things in some of the books, and I just want to know what's in some of them. So, because they're all over the place. So, well, that wraps it up for us this week. Join us next week as our next gal pal shares her one cool author thing as Gal's Guide podcast continues. Thanks for listening. For show notes, links, and images from this week's show, visit galsguide.org. Want exclusive stuff like deleted bits and major bloopers? Become a Gal's Guide patron today. Thanks for listening.